There are many legends whispered about the wilderness of North America, stories of creatures that stalk the forests unseen. These tales speak of strange lights drifting between the trees, of enormous shadows moving just beyond the limits of vision, and of eyes that seem to watch from nowhere. But among these whispered accounts, one in particular has emerged in recent years as both terrifying and perplexing. The reports of a figure known only as the Glimmerman. Unlike the more familiar cryptids of folklore, the Glimmerman is not remembered in Native American oral traditions or rooted in centuries of campfire stories. Instead, it is a modern legend born from scattered encounters and strange testimonies, yet one that has quickly cemented itself among the ranks of the most unsettling paranormal mysteries. Witnesses do not speak of footprints in the mud or roars in the night, but of something far stranger. An invisible presence that bends and shimmers the air around it, like heat rising from asphalt on a summer day. Some compare it to the cloaking effect from popular science fiction, a patch of distorted reality shaped like a humanoid form. Others insist it is a predatory being, able to stalk its victims without ever being seen. Hunters, hikers, and even suburban families have all described moments when the world seemed to ripple, as if some hidden thing was standing just in front of them. Whether an unknown creature, a spirit, or something far more alien, the Glimmerman continues to leave behind only questions and a deep, lingering sense of unease. A hunter moved cautiously through the undergrowth, the crunch of fallen leaves beneath his boots sounding far too loud in the oppressive silence. He had been tracking deer all morning, following the faint lines of prints through the mud. But now he found himself pausing, an unfamiliar unease settling over him. The air itself felt heavy, charged, as if an unseen storm were about to break. He raised his rifle, scanning the tree line, but there was nothing. Only endless trunks, branches swaying gently, and the shafts of sunlight filtering through the canopy. Yet the feeling persisted, the unmistakable certainty of being watched. Then, just at the edge of his vision, the world seemed to shift. A patch of the forest rippled, as though heat waves were distorting the air. At first, he thought it was a trick of light, perhaps sunlight refracting through mist, but the shimmer was wrong. It had a shape. It was tall, upright, and humanoid. His breath caught in his throat. He blinked hard, rubbed his eyes, but when he looked again, the distortion was still there, now edging closer between the trees. The hunter stepped backward, his rifle trembling in his hands. The air around the figure seemed to bend, blurring bark and foliage into a wavering outline that moved deliberately, almost cautiously, toward him. Every instinct screamed to run, yet his legs felt rooted to the ground. He could hear nothing, no footsteps, no breaking twigs, only the frantic pounding of his own heart. For a single moment the shimmering outline paused, as if regarding him, before melting seamlessly back into the forest. The distortion faded. The shape was gone. The hunter stumbled backward, gasping, his pulse racing. Had it truly been there? Or had his mind conjured some phantom in the silence of the woods? Yet even as he tried to convince himself it was nothing more than imagination, the unease refused to fade. The forest felt different now, alien, as though something unseen still lingered just beyond the edges of sight. Later, he would recount the incident in halting words, describing it as if the predator from the movies had stood before him. Friends laughed at the comparison, but his expression remained deadly serious. He insisted he had not imagined it, that there had been something there, cloaked in a way no natural creature should be. His story would not remain unique. Others too would come forward with accounts of shimmering figures in the woods, strange outlines that seemed to stalk silently, vanish suddenly, and leave behind only fear and confusion. These encounters, retold in whispers and internet forums, would give rise to a new legend, one that grew with every chilling testimony. The being they described came to be known as the Glimmerman. Unlike the great cryptids that dominate folklore, the hairy giants of the Pacific Northwest or the winged beasts of rural Appalachia, the Glimmerman does not stretch back through centuries of cultural memory. Its legend is comparatively new, taking shape within the last few decades and spreading primarily through word of mouth, paranormal message boards, and YouTube discussions. Yet its modernity makes it no less unsettling. The figure's origins are difficult to trace to a single account. Some of the earliest mentions appeared in the late 1990s and early 2000s, when hunters, soldiers, and outdoorsmen began to share unusual experiences online. They did not describe shadowy monsters or luminous UFOs, but something far stranger, a presence that was there, yet not visible, revealed only by the distortion of the environment around it. Witnesses compared the effect to a heat haze, a watery shimmer, or the cloaking of the alien hunter in the film Predator. It was not just a fleeting blur. It seemed to carry form and intent. Reports most often described a tall, humanoid shape, moving with deliberate purpose through wooded terrain. As these accounts circulated, they were quickly labeled the work of imagination, fear, or overactive nerves. But others began to share eerily similar encounters, describing the same rippling, man-shaped figures. Over time, the legend grew, and the name Glimmerman was coined, an apt title for a being defined by the way it warps the air around it. Though internet culture propelled the story forward, the experience is not limited to urban myth. People claim to have seen the Glimmerman in remote stretches of North American wilderness, hunters in the Midwest, hikers in the Rockies, and even residents in suburban neighborhoods backing onto woodland. Reports also surface from Europe and elsewhere, suggesting that if the entity is real, it may not be bound to one region. What sets the Glimmerman apart is the nature of the encounters. Unlike Bigfoot sightings, where footprints, howls, or physical traces can be debated, the Glimmerman leaves nothing behind. No tracks, no tufts of hair, no proof beyond the testimony of those who swear they saw the air itself bend into the outline of a predator-like, almost invisible figure. It is this absence of evidence, combined with the strangeness of the reports, that makes the Glimmerman one of the most mysterious figures in modern cryptid lore. One of the most widely discussed encounters took place deep in the Appalachian woods, where a pair of friends had set out on a late afternoon hike. The air was warm, the sky clear, and their path wound gradually upward through tangled undergrowth and shadowed pine. They were not far from their campsite when both men suddenly froze. A ripple passed across the trail ahead, as if the very air had been bent by invisible heat. They watched in silence, scarcely daring to breathe, as the shimmering patch elongated into a vertical form, taller than either of them, shaped unmistakably like a man. For several seconds it stood motionless, its presence undeniable in the way the trees and rocks behind it bent and warped. Then, with a slow and deliberate motion, it stepped aside and disappeared into the forest. Neither man spoke. Both simply turned and fled down the trail, convinced they had come face to face with something unnatural. Their story would later be shared online, where others chimed in with their own experiences. One hunter from Missouri described how, while seated in his tree stand before dawn, he heard branches snapping behind him. Expecting a deer, he turned and instead saw the faint ripple of a tall figure moving through the darkness. It appeared to glance upward toward him, though no features could be made out. Terrified, he remained frozen until the distortion faded away. He would not return to those woods for months. Another chilling account came from a woman in suburban Kentucky, whose property bordered a stretch of forest. She was sitting on her back porch one evening when she noticed the outline of something moving across her lawn. At first, she thought it was a trick of her eyes, the faint shimmer of heat rising from the grass. But the outline was far too defined. It was tall, broad-shouldered, and walking with measured strides. She could see her garden fence and trees bending strangely through its body, as though viewed through warped glass. For a moment it paused at the edge of the woods, turning slightly as if aware of her gaze, before stepping out of sight. Perhaps the most unnerving encounters, however, come from military personnel. A former soldier recounted a training exercise in the forests of North Carolina where his unit became convinced they were being shadowed. Motion sensors triggered with no visible cause. Scouts reported glimpsing humanoid figures that flickered in and out of sight. One night, while on watch, the soldier swore he saw a shimmering shape crouched just beyond the tree line, watching their camp. It vanished when he raised his weapon, but the uneasy sense of being observed remained for the duration of their deployment. Stories such as these rarely involve direct harm. No claw marks, no bodies left behind. Instead, the terror comes from the silence, the invisibility, the undeniable presence. Witnesses consistently describe the same detail, the feeling that something intelligent was observing them, something that could appear or vanish at will. In every case, the aftermath is the same. The witnesses insist they did not imagine it. The descriptions are nearly identical across time and place. A tall humanoid shape, shimmering like heat haze, gliding silently through the world as if hidden just beneath the surface of reality. The stories are usually told in hushed voices, uploaded to obscure forums, or shared reluctantly with friends. And though skeptics dismiss them as tricks of light and nerves, the chilling consistency of the accounts suggests something far stranger at work. Although many Glimmerman reports emerge from the forests of North America, the phenomenon is not restricted to a single location. Testimonies from across the globe suggest that witnesses are encountering something eerily similar, shimmering, humanoid forms that ripple against their surroundings before fading from sight. In 2012, a group of campers in the Adirondack Mountains of New York recounted how, shortly after witnessing strange orb-like lights hovering above the tree line, they noticed a distorted outline moving through the brush. The figure appeared for only seconds, tall and unmistakably human-shaped, before vanishing into the night. Their testimony was later shared online, where it resonated with others who had reported the same combination of glowing orbs and shimmering figures. Across the Atlantic, hikers in Germany's Black Forest have described nearly identical experiences. One anonymous account from 2017 told of two friends who noticed what seemed to be a piece of the forest walking. The shimmering distortion moved parallel to them along the path, keeping its distance but remaining visible long enough to leave them shaken. A case in Wisconsin described a translucent figure stepping into view along the tree line, before disappearing as soon as it was noticed. Patterns have begun to emerge from these accounts. Many encounters occur in areas already associated with other paranormal activity, UFO sightings, strange lights, or Bigfoot reports. Some researchers suggest a connection, that the Glimmerman may not be a separate entity at all, but another manifestation of an older mystery. Whether encountered in remote wilderness or on the edge of quiet neighborhoods, the descriptions remain consistent. It's that consistency across time and geography that continues to unsettle both skeptics and believers alike. As with many modern legends, the Glimmerman has inspired a wide range of theories. Each attempts to explain these strange, unsettling reports, yet none can account for the sheer regularity of the testimonies. The most straightforward interpretation is that the Glimmerman is a cryptid, an undiscovered creature that uses some form of natural camouflage. Biologists point to examples in the animal kingdom where transparency or light-bending properties are already present. Insects with glass-like wings, fish with nearly invisible skin, and cephalopods capable of changing color and texture. It is possible, they argue, that a terrestrial predator evolved to bend light around its body in ways we cannot yet understand. Others insist the appearance is paranormal in nature. In this view, the Glimmerman may be a spirit or interdimensional being, only partially able to manifest in our reality. Witnesses often describe a sense of dread, nausea, or paralysis during encounters, symptoms commonly reported in ghost and poltergeist cases. Supporters of this theory suggest that the Glimmerman may not be a physical creature at all, but rather an energy-based entity that distorts the world around it. A third explanation ties the Glimmerman to extraterrestrial activity. Numerous reports of shimmering figures are linked with UFO sightings, leading some to propose that the beings are visitors using advanced cloaking technology. The resemblance to the cinematic camouflage effect popularized by the Predator films is striking. So much so that some researchers wonder if the movies themselves were inspired by earlier, less publicized sightings. Skeptics, meanwhile, argue that the Glimmerman is the product of psychology and environment. In forests and wilderness, subtle changes in light, shadow, and heat shimmer can trick the human eye. Stress, fatigue, or the heightened alertness of hunters and hikers may combine to create fleeting illusions. Internet culture then reinforces these stories, spreading them until they take on a life of their own. And yet, despite these rational dismissals, the fact remains. Reports of the Glimmerman come from ordinary people, often with no prior interest in the paranormal, who swear they saw something real. Until the mystery can be conclusively explained, the Glimmerman remains poised between categories: cryptid, spirit, alien, or illusion, an enigma that defies simple answers. The stories of the Glimmerman occupy a strange place in modern folklore. Unlike the monsters of old, whose legends were shaped by centuries of retelling, this figure has emerged in the age of the internet. Its accounts scattered across forums, podcasts, and the frightened recollections of ordinary people. And yet, for all its modernity, the legend carries the same weight as older tales of spectral beings, shadow men, and hidden predators that haunt the edges of human awareness. What makes the Glimmerman so compelling is not just its appearance, but its absence. It leaves no footprints in the mud, no claw marks on tree trunks, and no conclusive photograph. Only ripples of testimony remain. Campers who swear they saw the air itself bend, hunters who felt an invisible gaze settle on them, and families who watched distorted figures slip silently into the tree line. Is it an undiscovered species, a cloaked visitor from another world, or simply the mind's response to fear in the wilderness? We may never know, but the persistence of these stories and the consistency with which they are told suggests that something is indeed out there, moving silently through the forests, invisible, yet always watching.